Should you have sex before a fight? Now, past greats would abstain from sex before a fight, such as Muhammad Ali, who would not have sex 6 weeks before a fight leading into the fight, believing that if he did, it would reduce his aggression and his testosterone coming into the fight. But is this backed on any science? Hey everyone, James here from Sweet Science of Fighting, and if you learn anything new from this video or you find it helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel and watch it all the way through, as it's going to help bless the YouTube algorithm gods for me. While it is believed that having sex before a fight reduces testosterone, strength and aggression, it's also believed that having sex before a fight also expends a lot of energy, making you tired for the following day's fight. Now, if we look at the research, we see sex generally expends around 25 calories, which is around 2 flights of stairs, but I guess that would be depending what you're into. So is there any truth behind this old legend? Sex doesn't seem to have an effect on muscle strength. For example, sex the night before taking a hand grip strength test showed no changes in that hand grip strength. We see as well 12 hours before undertaking lower body strength tests, we see no changes in leg strength between a group that had sex and a group that didn't have sex. And this was regardless of if it was less than 30 minutes or longer than 30 minutes. Now, a more recent study looked at a group that had sex for 5 to 19 minutes the night before a squat strength test, and yes, they had to time themselves during the study. And what they found was that the group that had sex actually reduced their squat strength by 2 kgs. Now, while it might have been statistically significant within the study, it might not really be practically significant. Now, there was a trend that the ones that had sex longer had the greatest reduction in strength the following day, whereas the shorter ones didn't. Further, the study wasn't randomized, so week 1 was the sex condition, and then all the subjects in week 2 abstained from sex for the test. Now, the problem with that is you perform the test on week 1 and then you have almost a learning effect or some of that strength effect come into week 2. So overall, it seems that sex the night before a strength test doesn't seem to have much effect regardless of how long that sex is. But what about sex and your conditioning? Now, when they looked at a maximal running treadmill test, sex at least 10 hours before that had no effect. What's really interesting is when they looked at these high-level male athletes who had sex before performing a cycloergometer endurance test, and they actually found a positive effect, meaning that the ones who had sex had a better endurance test result. Now, what's important to note that the ones that had sex closest to the test, so within 2 hours, actually saw a negative effect. So it seems there's a little window there. If you have it too close to competition, you might see those negative effects carry over. But if you're far enough away, for example, the night before, it looks like you're good to go and could even potentially be beneficial, especially for those looking to enhance their endurance. What about sex and the all-important testosterone? Now, 2 studies have looked at this, and they found that testosterone is not affected in the short term or long term with sexual activity. We also see that in the evenings when couples engage in sex, we see actually an increase in testosterone. And the couples that don't, we actually see a reduction in testosterone. So it seems like sex is actually a positive driver for this hormone. And what about overall sports performance? Well, it seems that sex has no direct negative impact on sport performance. And I'm talking about like heart rate, blood pressure, upper and lower body strength, hamstring flexibility, hormones. Everything that's been measured, there's been no negative effect of having sex beforehand. When we look at the psychological aspects, we see that sex shows no negative effect on mental concentration in high-level athletes. We also see no difference in mental and physical fatigue when they have sex 12 hours before a strength test compared to an abstaining group. So it turns out all of these so-called truths about sex and sports performance are flat out wrong. Now, some guidelines to use when you're coming up to your next fight is try to abstain from having sex 2 hours before a fight. I don't even know how you could even do that anyway, and try keep it at least 10 hours away from your fight, just so you don't run into any potential negative effects carrying over into your performance. Now, there's one takeaway from a study that I think is important to remember with this, and that is that sexual activity has a relaxing effect, and to abstain from this can actually cause more frustration than to actually have the sex, which could potentially have a negative effect anyway. So by having sex the night before a fight, it could actually help some of your pre-fight. Now, if you go into the description, I also have this in a blog post format for you, so you can check all the references and have a read of it. Also, I've got plenty of freebies down there for you for strikers, grapplers, and MMA athletes. So please like this video and subscribe to my channel and throw any comments down in the comment section.